This week we've had 3 committees all having hearings, both on substantive subject matter, but also on confirming various appointees to lead the Biden administration. We've also had votes on the floor on some of those appointees. But the big news this week is the $1.9 trillion bill that the Biden administration gave to the House and now has given to the Senate. The Senate Democrats are changing the bill. They're bringing it to the floor even as we speak, and no Republican has seen it, not a single one, because there have been so many changes that the Democrats in the Senate have made to it since it came over from the House. But we do expect some of the main features to remain the same, which is, of the $1.9 trillion, only 9% is related to COVID, and only 1% is related to vaccines. The remainder is a gigantic progressive wish list. In fact, White House Chief of Staff has called this the most progressive, meaning liberal, piece of legislation that has ever been assembled. And we're seeing that. There are 26 plus new programs that will never end. There is no end date on these programs. New programs created in this piece of legislation that no one has ever seen. It is, I think, between 600 and 700 pages. Again, none of us have ever seen it. It came from Nancy Pelosi's office through the House on a partisan vote, then into Chuck Schumer's office, and now onto the floor without any of us seeing it. So it is Washington at its worst, spending at its worst. If you pile up $1.9 trillion bills, one on top of the other, not this way, flat, this way, halfway to the moon. Halfway to the moon. That's how much $1.9 trillion is if you just lay one bill on top of the other. This is going to add to the debt. It's going to take us up to around $30 trillion in debt. These numbers are so large that no one can comprehend them. And no one, and I mean no one, knows how to pay it back. Absolutely no one. As I've interviewed people in the Economic Advisor's Office, in the SEC, in the Federal Reserve Board, and in various agencies, no one knows how we're going to pay this back. Congress created the problem, and Congress continues to create the problem. And I can assure you, as a member of the Congress, no one knows how to pay it back. So I will be opposing this bill vigorously. Now, we're expecting, because this bill is being attached to the budget using a process called reconciliation, requiring only a majority vote, we're expecting that it's going to be a dogfight. There will be dozens and dozens of amendments proposed, many of which the Democrats will not accept, most of which the Democrats will not accept. But we're doing it to illustrate how unnecessary, wasteful, inappropriate, and excessively expensive this bill is. This is a huge mistake for our economy and our country, and Republicans intend to illustrate that. The Democrats probably have the votes to pass it, and it's going to be a huge burden on the American people. But before they pass this bill without a single Republican vote, we want to be able to expose just how dreadful it really is. So that's where we are this week. It looks like it's going to be a long week, and possibly we'll be in session most of the weekend. We just don't know yet. But that said, that's kind of the report for a week, and I'm going to open it up for questions. Abigail, do we have some questions?
Absolutely. The first question is from Brad in Cheyenne. He asks, "Hi, Senator, will there be more stimulus checks in this new package, and do you support more stimulus checks?"
There are more stimulus checks in this package, about $1,400, hopefully weighted towards people who need them rather than absolutely everyone. If the Democrats, when we finally get to see this bill, are coming out with provisions to give everyone, regardless of their income bracket, $1,400 checks. You'll probably see Republicans supporting amendments to limit the salaries of those who are able to receive these benefits, so they go to people who need them, not people who just want them.
Our next question is from John in Rock Springs. He says, I've heard this bill is a bailout for states who wouldn't open their economies. Is that true?
Well, the bill that passed the House certainly was. That had money set aside for states and cities who had large unemployment rates, largely because they kept their economies really closed up during COVID. So states that kept their economies relatively open, states like Florida, Texas, Wyoming, South Dakota, those states are actually penalized under this bill, and states that closed up, like New York and California, will benefit. So we think that this is absolutely the wrong approach, and again, you should see amendments to the formula coming from the Republicans. Well, that's all the questions we have. I'm so happy to share this live cattle call with you. Thank you for participating. And now it's off to read the 600 pages in this bill. Stay tuned. It's going to be a long week. I'm Cynthia Lummis for Cattle Call.